Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a look at a new item card, which is mean. You're going to hate this, I'm going to hate this, unless you're a control player, in which case some games you're going to love this, and some games you are going to hate this. What we've got here is the lovely new item card, and I say lovely very much in quotation fingers, Disruptive Letter. Oh, this one's gonna make people sad. What we've got here is a new item card that reads, your opponent counts how many cards they have in their hand, shuffles the cards, and puts them to the bottom of their deck, and then draws that many cards. Now, and I should say I did the translation myself and then checked with a lovely Antoine Boulet. And on the face of it here, we can look at that and go, well, hang on a second. I mean, let's be real here. You're giving your opponent the same number of cards in their hand. Maybe they end up with a better hand of cards. And the answer is, no, you don't do this randomly, ladies and gentlemen. What you do is you wait until you know that your opponent has got a very good hand of cards. And then you go and use this to mess with their hand. Now, of course, one thing you can do here is just look at your opponent's hand. Now, we used to have Lavender Town, which was a really fun stadium that allowed us to do this. We don't have that anymore. We do still have Zubat from 151 that, as long as it's active, lets you look at your opponent's hand. So the theory here is that you essentially take a peek at your opponent's hand. If they've got a good hand, you use this. If they don't have a good hand, then you leave them to it, because you're not really hurting them. That's not really what we're doing here. Like, you can, don't get me wrong, but this isn't really the goal you're going for with this card. What we really want here is every turn and certainty, or really specific situations and certainty. And honestly, what we're really looking for here is the combo with Xerosic's Machinations. That is where this card becomes awesome. Because Xerosic's Machinations says that your opponent has to discard cards from their hand until they've got 3 cards left remaining. It forces them down to a 3-card hand. This is important, because if your opponent's getting a new hand of like 8 cards, chances are there's a decent chance that they're going to actually find something good. So you want to put them down to a low hand size to start off with. But the other thing with Xerosic's Machinations is your opponent has to do one of 2 things. Most of the time, what they're going to do is they're going to get rid of all the cards they can spare, but they're going to leave themselves with any card that is super important or essential, and probably a draw supporter. And they're going to have a 3-card hand remaining, but let's face it, it's going to be the best 3 cards available. Then you drop this. Because at that point, your opponent has got a small hand of cards that they know are going to be useful, the absolute best ones available. And then instead, you give them a random 3-card hand. And sure, they could draw out of it. They could draw something really good to get around it. That is absolutely a possibility. I'm willing to bet that the chances are they're probably not going to. That is where this card comes in beautifully. It's not about just randomly giving your opponent a new hand and crossing your fingers. It is about using it with something like Xerosic's. And look, there will be turns where your opponent goes down to a 1 or 2 card hand, just by themselves, just naturally playing out their hand, at which point a card like this is going to be big. Because if your opponent is voluntarily going down to a 1 or 2 card hand, one of those cards is probably a draw supporter. At which point, you can put them down to a random 2-card hand, and like I say, maybe they still get something good out of it, but I think the chances are they probably don't. You can play this on turn 1 and give them a 6-card hand, and maybe it's terrible, but maybe it's good. I don't like it very much there. I like this for your opponent has voluntarily gone down to a 1 or 2 card hand, and then you punish them, or you make them go down to a 3 card hand with this, and then you punish them. That is where this becomes such a good deal. Cool. But you need to find this at the right time. Like, that's the key here. It's not about crossing your fingers and hoping you draw into it. It is about, let's make sure that we are punishing our opponents at the right time. You need to draw this at the perfect time. You don't worry about it. This is one of the best formats we've had in a very long time for grabbing random cards. Like, everyone's playing Arven at the moment. Okay, not everyone, but a lot of people are playing Arven right now. Supporter card lets you go and grab an item card and a stadium. Cool. This will work nicely. A lot of people are playing Pidgeot right now. Quick search once per turn. Go and grab any card from your deck. Brilliant. Go and grab this. Job's a good un. And then, of course, we've got the new Noctowl. And I adore the new Noctowl when you're using it here. Because, firstly, Noctowl is nuts. Can we all just appreciate for a second how ridiculous Noctowl is? We all played Drizzile back in the day when it was evolving to a stage 1, grab yourself a trainer card. And yeah, I know that it actually then did evolve into Inteleon, and Inteleon would then go and get yourself 2 trainer cards. Understand that entirely. But this gets 2, which is better than Drizzile, and it's only a stage 1. The fact that you get 2 here, I really think means you don't necessarily need the Inteleon. Like, getting 1 and then 2 free total over a stage 2 is nice, but just getting 2 on a stage 1 is honestly a lot of the time probably better, because you're only mucking about with a stage 1. It is a great card. It's going to see a bunch of play. But it also goes and lets you get 2 trainer cards. Oh, as a side note, you'll notice I'm showing you the artwork rare here, the illustration rare. It's our Elite Trainer Box promo for Stellar Crown, yay, etc. But the point I'm making here is that you go and get yourself 2 trainer cards. So you know how I keep talking about the fact that 06 Machinations and then this played as a pair of cards is really what makes this card great. Yeah, Noctowl's got your back. If you play this, you can get Xerosic and you can get the new item card. And then you go ahead and just play them both one after another. And lovely Antoine Boulet did suggest this on a tweet today. What you could do here is kind of go a bit mind-gamey and go and get both of them with Noctowl. And then your opponent doesn't bother keeping the good cards because they know they're getting lettered away anyway. And then you don't go and play Disruptive Letter. I don't think you should. I think you really should focus on just, doing the disruption. But I do think it's kind of funny. And if we're worried about this, might I all remind you about Academy at Night? It's a new stadium card. I actually saw a bunch of play at Worlds with electric generator decks because it lets you put a card from your hand on top of your deck once per turn. And one of the cool things about that is with electric generator that you can basically put a lightning energy on top of your deck, guarantee that you're going to hit it. What you can do here is, if you think your opponent is going to use this, you essentially put your draw supporter or the one card you really need on top of your deck. So if they drop a Disruptive Letter, rather than losing the card you need the most, you guarantee to draw it as a result of Disruptive Letter. It's very much the same kind of thing as protecting against an INO here. Putting a card on top of your deck because you think your opponent's going to put your hand on the bottom of your deck, and then that one card you desperately didn't want to lose from your hand, you're guaranteed to draw into after the disruption card has been played. And actually, I'm not saying this is going to see a massive uptick in the number of decks playing this card, but I'm saying if you're looking for a way around Disruptive Letter, Academy at Night might be the best option out there. It might be the best thing that you can do. And the thing is, this is one of those cards where it's easy to look at and go, well, you give your opponent the same hand, what's the point? The same as in the same size of hand. And like I say, use it with Zubat. If you know they've got a bad hand, that'll work. But I think better here is just going for the Noctowl Xerosic combo. Playing the 3 of them and basically giving your opponent a random free card hand. The 2 of them together, it's kind of like you make your opponent shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 3 at any point in the game, but it's better than that because you're forcing them to discard rather than just putting the cards back into or on the bottom of their deck. And of course, remember, because the cards go to the bottom of their deck, they are much less likely to draw back into the things they need, because the things they need they kept off Xerosic, and the things they kept off Xerosic are now on the bottom of their deck. I'm giving this card 5 Wassies. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I wasn't planning on rushing out and making a video about the card that was revealed today, especially as we've already done a reveal video on Paradise Dragona, or Surging Sparks as it's going to be for us. And then I saw the card, and I'm like, yeah, that's busted. That's a card that we really need to have a little bit of a chat about. This card is redonk. We're going to be getting it, like I say, in Surging Sparks. Japan is going to be getting it soon in Paradise Dragona. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a pretty big deal. But I've told you all about that now. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about all of this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Smash Cafe. They seem like lovely people, and they've been supporting us for a little while, so shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.